Welcome to the Human Show.
Been saying all the time, the reason why I couldn't tell you, you wouldn't want me to. The meaning is there in the act of the same. And mine reminds me of the time, you know, the time when snowed and spilled this messy secret way up high in the sky, God and human. The sleeping dogs, they lied. They couldn't turn the tide. We knew it was all a blue, but we still don't know if it's laughter or blue. And your reflections in your mind are mirrors of the time we knew not to face the music that always reminds us that we're only human. To the meaning is there in the act of the same.
Thank you. Welcome to the Human Show, episode 28, Darkness and Light. So we're going to talk to Joey Banks. We're going to hear music from Andy Ewan and maybe other guests. And then we'll also be speaking with Prexy Nesbitt. So, Joey, why don't you come up and we're going to talk about music and mentorship.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything else you need to get off your chest?
I need to get off my chest?
Yeah.
You invited me here, so
You didn't understand.
you have the questions. I'll answer the questions.
All right, welcome, Joey Banks.
Hello, everybody. It's a very, very familiar spot for me. When Hana opened this place, my band, the JB3s, did a residency that first year, and then COVID hit. So we played a year here every week, and then COVID hit, and it was like starting all over again. But we love this place, and we love supporting Hana, and yeah.
Me too. So I'd love if you just tell us a little bit about your story. You grew up here in Madison. You do a lot of amazing stuff with young people.
So yeah, I'm a Madisonian. Any Madisonians in the house? Anybody born here? One. There's two of us that are actually born in Madison. It's crazy because when I was a kid, everybody was from here. Now it's like all different places and countries. But yeah, I grew up here. I went through the Madison schools. I went to 3 elementary schools. Started out at Leopold, and then Spring Harbor when it was an elementary school, and then ended up at Franklin on the south side with the Lincoln Middle School, and then La Follette High School, and yeah.
Lancer Pride.
Messed around at Madison Business College for a little bit, and MATC, and then I went into the Air Force for a short, brief time. My wife got pregnant while we were in North Dakota, the worst place on the planet you want to live, and she decided she didn't want to have a baby in North Dakota, so they were giving out early releases prior to Desert Storm, so I got out early and came back to Madison, had our second son here. But when I was a kid, when I was 9, I started the drum corps. I marched with the Madison Junior Scouts, and that really kind of set off like my musical journey in general. Very good teachers, very good musical education opportunity for a young 9-year-old drummer. And when I was 10, I started really drumming for real, getting really good instruction from my instructors, guys that I idolized in the Madison Scouts, which was a world-class drum corps from the Madison area. And when I was 14, I became a world-class snare drummer, and I performed in that group. That really shaped a lot of what I am today. Because of the musical exposure I had in that group to jazz and classical music, specifically really high level performance, really high level rudimental drumming, and then the music and the repertoires were all very, very unique to the Madison Scouts. They have their own style. They were like rock stars in the drum corps community. So we were playing shows in front of 40, 50, 60,000 people. And again, I'm a 13-year-old 14-year-old kid, 14-year-old kid being dropped off in the middle of New York City on a free day, dropped off in the middle of old Montreal and Quebec, Canada, 14. I mean, so a lot of my traveling and I got a lot of experiences traveling around the country and seeing other parts of the country, which was good because you got to see how cool Madison was compared to everywhere else you go. And so that's why we're still here in Madison. But yeah, Madison Scouts. And then, played music in band in high school and stuff. It was really kind of low level for me. But I started playing professionally at 16 with Charlie Brooks, a local R&B soul guy from the Madison area, and basically learned R&B and soul and funk songs that he was doing. He was doing all the old school stuff. A lot of stuff that Clyde ended up doing on his Funky Mondays because Charlie ended up fronting Clyde's band for the Funky Monday shows for a lot of years. So, but that was happening. I ended up playing with Tate and the $1 Million Blues Band around that, a little bit after that, and met a lot of Chicago blues and national blues artists, like Luther Allison, who I later got to perform with, and Coco Taylor and Lonnie Brooks, and a lot of high-end Chicago blues people, which I ended up performing with a lot of those people because of Tate. I had a lot of really good, profound musical experiences really early in my life, and flash forward to today, I'm an advocate for youth performers. This is a former student over here, and Mr. Repenshek came through for a minute, did some drums, but he's been archiving Honor Among Thieves, albums and everything that has been recorded on an audio tape back in the 80s, 90s, right? Thank you for that, Ryan. You kind of got Andy interested in his own music again. Performance-wise, started really young and played with a lot of different people in the Madison area over the years. But most notably, I became the musical director for Clyde Stubblefield, 3 years prior to him passing away. Started a scholarship in his name when he passed away that's being administered by the Madison Area Music Association. It's the Clyde Stubblefield Music Scholarship.
So what about, if people don't know who Clyde Stubblefield is, will you tell us a little bit about him and his story, and then your story and how you got to know him? And there's a lot that resonates with me when you talk about being a 13 and 14-year-old and having heroes in the Scouts. Like, to me, it's so important to have heroes from other generations, and it's such a beautiful thing when you get to meet them.
Right. Your subject is mentors, and I had a lot of good mentors, musical mentors, and then some father figures too. But I met Clyde actually at a blues jam at Club de Wash. I was 16 years old, and I was jamming. Paul Black had a Blue Monday jam at the Club de Wash on Mondays. I lived on the south side, and I literally lived like 2 miles from there. I would walk over there and do those jams. There was also another jam called at Morgan's. Anybody remember Morgan's from back in the day? Now it's the Alchemy. Now?
Oh.
Yeah. There used to be a huge blues jam, and everybody in Madison would attend those. So, but Club de Wash, I met Clyde. Clyde saw me play, and he was like, just came up to me and said, you sound really good, and keep doing what you're doing. And he always kind of like encouraged me to be me as a drummer. Even though a lot of people always tried to compare us, we were really completely different drummers and came from completely different. Clyde grew up playing literally on pots and pans and listening to train tracks and marching bands, and his influences were like stuff in his environment that he heard on a regular basis, and that's where all that came from, which is incredible. But I was rudimentally trained, and trained in traditional grip, which is much different. You see Clyde in the early days play a traditional grip, but then he changes later in life to the match, just because it's easier to play match grip. But mentors, he basically just became a really good advocate for me personally. He was always encouraging, he was always really positive, he was always telling me to be myself and be creative in my own way and not, just do your thing. And I really kind of took that for my whole life. Not try to be like anybody other drummers or any other creative mind, but just be my own person and be my own creative self. So that was big for me. And then he, the person Clyde is, and my wife will probably disagree with this, but I try to be as kind as I can be and in certain situations. But Clyde was just genuinely kind, compassionate, just didn't like any type of drama between friends or anything. He was just like, so you would sign his autographs, peace and love. He's just like a really cool human being. And really humble. So, millions of drummers looked at him as like the pinnacle of funk drumming, like the Mount Rushmore's face should be on Mount Rushmore of drummers, right? He never thought about that kind of stuff. He was just pissed off that he didn't get credit for the Funky Drummer samples that was on 1,000 different people's albums that made cajillions and jillions of dollars that never gave him any recognition for the beat that he provided for them that helped them become millionaires. He just wanted the recognition. He didn't even want the money. He just wanted to say, this is Clyde's beat, this is his, he owns it. And as some people do, but not to the degree where they would contribute anything to him or there's a few producers over the years that have recognized him for his beat. Like the producer of the Powerpuff Girls, the Comedy Network. Anybody ever see Powerpuff Girls? Got grandkids, anybody? my son's doing a movie about Clyde right now, so a lot of like really small details about Clyde, you know, we've done through research and, you know, what songs are Clyde, what songs has Clyde played on, or what beats have been sampled by what artists. We have a lot of that information, but you guys gotta all wait for the movie for that information.
Isn't he the most sampled drummer?
Yeah, and you know, people say debatably that the Amen break, right, Robin? The Amen break. So if you break down the Amen break, it's basically the Clyde funky drummer beat. So what came first? The funky drummer beat came first. So like there shouldn't really be an argument about what sample is the most used, because the Amen break is basically the same thing as the funky drummer. And note for note, like rhythm notation wise, it's almost exactly the same. Yeah, Clyde was pinnacle in a lot of people's lives and inspired millions and millions of drummers to become, you know, funk drummers specifically. Not just drummers, but DJs and producers. All these people are in the movie. And then some of the top funk drummers in the world are in our movie, have their own stories and experiences with Clyde that's pretty unique. Like Nate Smith and Dennis Chambers, who's one of my favorite drummers of all time, Sheila E. A lot of these drummers looked at Dennis Chambers. The quote, Dennis Chambers said, "When Clyde Stubblefield came on the scene, it changed the game for everybody." And that's like a direct quote from Dennis Chambers, who's one of the best drummers in the world. And the first drummer, I was telling Bucky out there, that first drummer for Parliament Funkadelic, and just in himself, he's a pioneer too. So coming from him, and in my opinion, the best drummer in the world. So coming from him, that was quite a compliment to Clyde.
So when you are working with young people, do you have a top thing you want to accomplish or convey, or like, is there something in particular that you hope people learn from working with you or from following your example?
Well, I direct a drum line in Madison. I don't know if anybody's heard of the Black Star drum line. Anybody heard of the kids? Yeah. They're more rock stars than I am, in my opinion. I mean, we just played Overture Hall like 3 weeks ago. These are like 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 17-year-olds playing in Overture Hall, which was a pretty big deal, first show of the year. But the reason why I started the drum line is because there was an absence of drum corps activity in Madison. At one time, there were 5 drum corps in Madison: Madison Scouts, Madison Junior Scouts, Capital Airs, Capital Air Petites, and a group that spawned out of Wanakee called the 32nd Hoosier. And all that went away when the Scouts moved away physically. And about that time, I got a donation from Jackson State University of some Yamaha, a battery of drums from Yamaha. And the Boys and Girls Club was looking to restart a program they called the Drum Program, Diversity, Respect, and Unity Through Music. And I changed it to Diversity, Respect, and Unity, and Mastery, because my mind was set on teaching kids a skill set and that would help them become percussionists and high-level percussionists. And so that's the Black Star Drum Line. We've been 16 years, this is our 16th year, and these kids from the Black Star Drum Line have just recently graduated from Berklee School of Music, and I've played in University of Wisconsin bands and gone on to other music schools over the years and done some pretty cool stuff. I mean, for me, it's really just giving them what I had, my experiences as a kid, which helped me become a professional musician, which helped me become a Grammy-nominated drummer, and 5-time Madison Drummer of the Year here in Madison. But a lot of my life is my experiences. I'm giving back to them. It's really that simple. It's really just paying back, giving those kids the same opportunities I had to succeed, opening doors and opportunities for them to succeed, giving them information that gives them kind of the advantage over other kids that are being taught about the music and the music industry, because I coach bands and I coach kids that are in bands as well. So it's really not that complicated. It's really just, this is what I know, this is what I've learned about music, this is what I learned about drumming, this is what I know, and I teach them the language, and I teach them what I know, and hopefully a lot of those kids are very interested in being musicians in general, at some level or some capacity, and I just try to help them through that. So I teach privately as well. I have private students on top of the drumline kids. I am a professional teaching artist in the Madison School District. I'm currently in a residency at Winger School. I'm on the board of directors for the Madison Jazz Society, so my part of the Madison Jazz Society is jazz education. So I spent a lot of time in schools teaching jazz. Did a brief residency at La Follette recently, where I went to high school for the musicians, the young musicians at La Follette High School, and Ryan took part in that. Memorial High School, and we plan on hitting all the high schools in the Madison area. But it's all of those situations basically are the same to me. It's like my knowledge and what I know about jazz, or what I know about rock, or what I know about blues or Latin, because I teach all styles of music to kids and adults. If any adults out there want to take drum lessons, I got 2 adult slots open. If anybody wants to come learn how to play some drums at 50 years old or 60, whatever age you are. I've had 60-year-old students. I've had 70-year-olds. Steve Porter. Anybody know Steve Porter? Do you know Steve Porter? He's a student of mine. He's like 71 years old. And he was in a really kind of famous band when he was young, and he just decided he wanted to start drumming again, and got him back going, and now he's playing out and playing with people. So it's not just kids. One of my drum mentors, Dennis Jones, who's also Outside the Blues. Anybody heard that band, Outside the Blues? He's a drummer for that group. He started taking drum lessons from me when he was 64 years old, and then he started playing in a band. But he was one of my first drum teachers when I was a kid. So I ended up teaching one of my first teachers how to play.
That's pretty beautiful.
Get him back in. He was mostly just wanted to focus on blues, but that was a very unique experience, teaching one of my teachers.
So what bands are you playing in now, and when can we see you play?
Okay. I have my own bands. One of my bands is called the Funky JBs. It's a funk band with horns. We do mostly, funk, soul, R&B based music. And I have a smaller group that's the rhythm section core group of the Funky JBs. I call the JB3s. And we've played here at Cafe CODA probably 100 times at least. I'm in a band called Steely Dan. Anybody ever heard of that group? Yeah, Steely Dan, which is actually doing really well. It's become more of a regional band. We just became an LLC recently. It's a band that started out with 25 people in it.
Wow.
As a community project that Dave Adler and Dave Stoller started. Actually, Dave Stoller and I talked about it like 5 years before it happened. Then Dave Stoller Adler kind of jumped on the bandwagon, and then it actually became a reality. And just took a fun, let's get together and play Steely Dan songs at the High Noon Saloon. And 14 years later, we're selling out theaters everywhere in the Midwest. So that band's doing really well. It's a really fun group of people to play with. And I love Steely Dan music. It's just like the best of jazz and rock, like mashed up together. And there's a lot of funkiness in there too. So it's fun and enjoyable music to perform. And then I'm in a Jimi Hendrix tribute band called Up From the Skies with Dennis Shepard, who is the guitar player for Steely Dan. We're getting ready to do some shows this summer. We'll be around of course, the longest standing band that I've been in, that I think is still a band, I'm thinking it's still a group, is Honor Among Thieves, which I started playing in 1998, and I'm trying to think if my first show with you guys was at Orton Park. Was it Orton, 97 Orton Park? We opened for, I remember, because we opened for Sonny Landreth, I believe.
Wow.
Was that correct? Yeah, Sonny Landreth, Congo Square. And we played on the basketball court at Orton Park, if anybody remembers. Now the stage is on the complete opposite side, but it was just a little basketball court where they put the stage and everybody kind of congregated in that little space. And, but that was my first year with them, and I'm still with them. Andy's semi-retired from playing live shows, and I don't force his hand. I just tell him that people want us to play, and if he agrees, then we do the show, and if he doesn't agree, we don't do the show.
All right. Well, fortunately, Andy agreed to play. So that's a good segue to get Andy up here playing piano. I want to thank you, Joey.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. And if you want to know more about me, I have a website, joeybbanks.com. I have a Facebook, I have an Instagram. But the website pretty much sums up everything I said today about myself and who I am and what I do. And thank you guys for listening.
Thanks so
Appreciate
much. It was really great to hear more. And I just wanted to say real quick, Andy kind of fits in the category of mentor for me. I used to be super intimidated by Andy Ewan, felt like really shy to speak to him, and it was one of these situations where you get to know someone and they're only human. So Andy, I'm super excited to hear you play some piano. You're one of my favorite songwriters and guitarists, so this is a treat, and this is the spirit of piano recitals. I have musicians play piano who don't usually perform on piano. So thank you, Andy.
Wow. I kind of got to take a piss, but I think it was James Dean or something who said that he liked to record or whatever, or get filmed while he was in that state. So I heard that the theme of today's event is called Darkness and Light. And it made me think of a quote from the Tao Te Ching, which is one of my go-to texts. And it said, know the white, but keep the black. Be an example to the world. Being an example to the world, ever true and unwavering, return to the infinite. man-child in a sailor suit, breeches to his knees, stands in a body of water. The water is all that he sees. In his hand he's got a torch, bright as the day you were born. Its light is so bright it turns the night white, and some people think that it's dawn. Sometimes the water rises one way or another, he sings. If he closes his eyes, he surely will die, but if he opens his mouth, he can drink. There's this raven, and his name is Hummingbird. He's totally inside out. Brown, reddish brown, and glistening with a clear, viscous coat. And on the inside is a womb of black feathers, which is where I lie. Tiny and naked, glass clouds on my mental TV. The weatherman says the world is going to explode. Hummingbird says caw in a foreign language, unintelligible even to other ravens, even to other ravens, even to other ravens. This truck contains an awareness of teeth. Black velvet fortress binding the eyes. The abdomen splits, glass window reveals, vertical cannon, thick painted red, its actual pointing towards my tissue carnation, towards spiral refinement of tissue and mucus, hemoglobinous mouth of the sand. It's talking, it's talking, it's talking, it's talking. It says, move along, people. Ain't nothing to see. Says, move along, people. Ain't nothing to see. window at the house across the yard. Through the glee green leaves of the cherry tree. The house across the yard is made of ground beef, studded with white rectangular fat. My wife said, "You gotta think positively, pretend it's mashed potatoes." From the ground up, scar and flame. I'm in it from the ground up, scar and flame. I thought it was too dark outside to see a rainbow. I thought it was too dark outside to see a rainbow. I was wrong. But I was wrong. I gotta tell, it's a legendary epic. It's a legendary epic, full of monsters and lawyers and lizards and stars. Stephanie, you can't fit it in your head, and it ends with the death of the universe. You've got a bit part somewhere in between the climax and the denouement. And we are everything right now. And we are everything right now. I got a song. It's a simple observation. It's made of laughter and crying and ashes and dust. You can hold it in your hand. And it ends in the blink of an insect's eye. And you're barely aware that each word of the song is a piece of time. And we've all overwritten our roads. You know, we've all overwritten our roads. Yeah, let's do some jazz.
I was gonna. I'm limited, but I'll do my best.
The blues keep coming back from all. Hey, now. The blues keep coming back from all. They say every day is different, but I see this world before. I'm walking by your window. I like to stop and breathe the air. I like to stop and breathe the air, Joey. Whoa, I could live forever, Joey, but I know I'd never get my share. I was born upon the ocean. I know I'm gonna die by the sea. I was born upon the ocean. I'm gonna die by the sea. All day and day out, I hear a voice.
Joey Banks, and you can hear them together in honor among thieves. Alright, I would like to call up Prexy Nesbitt to the stage. So, thanks, that was fantastic. And I'm gonna get serious for a few minutes, 20 so to be exact. And Prexy Nesbitt, I met just a couple weeks ago at Mother Fools, and I could tell we needed to talk here at the show. So, yes, I have called the topic War, Peace, Empire, and we'll hear what you would like to tell your story. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
So you'll need to talk right into the mic for it to pick up if you're on this tilt with you. So I knew I wanted to interview you just from hearing it. Try not to eavesdrop, but sometimes you're the only one working at a place and you hear people talking, and you had some really astute political observations and some really interesting things you were expressing. So I asked you to come on this show, and then after that I looked you up, and you have a very extensive, very interesting background, and I'd love to hear you tell us what about your life you would like us to know that's led you into the work and perspectives that you are doing.
I've not done this in a number of years, but I just want to ask a question. Is that Richard Davis up there on the photograph up there on the wall? Playing the bass?
That is.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the one. Well, it made me feel very at home. Richard used to live in my family's building on the west side of Chicago with his brother, who was a dentist, who was a friend of our family's. So I know Richard died in the last year, didn't he? And I know he was a fixture here doing anti-racism work and teaching. And I missed seeing him here. I never saw him here. But he always was a presence in our building. And I have a particular tie to him because he practiced in the apartment that abutted my family's apartment, where I had the room right next to his practice area. So when he'd be practicing, I'd be hearing nothing but this bass. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old and was determined to become like Richard. So when I became 11 or 12, my father got me a bass. I tried to play it for years, but never could reach Richard's standard. But I'm happy to have him welcome me here with that photograph. In a way, I come out of Wisconsin, in a way I don't. Lots of my life was spent in Fox Lake. I assume all of you all know Fox Lake, Beaver Dam, that area just east of Sun Prairie here. So I've been coming over here to Madison probably since 1961 or 62, maybe even earlier, and was always just coming over here, and I'd never see nothing but cows between Fox Lake and here. So to see the changes that have happened over this time period have been a bit amazing to me. And to be living here right now is not something I expected, but I have a son who just opened up a new ice cream shop right down the road here on Willie Street. I urge all of you to check it out. It has a funny name. I hate ice cream, but he's opened up this ice cream shop, and it's worth you checking it out. Right down, just past, what's that restaurant? It's got a funny name. Former gas station.
Oh, Monty's?
Monty's.
Oh, okay.
You just go on past Monty's, and on the left, you'll see his new ice cream shop. So that's my paid commercial. But let me just talk more about whatever kind of things I think you might be of interest.
I wonder how much you're getting paid because you didn't mention the name.
I didn't mention the name.
The name of the ice cream.
I can't, it's got a weird name, like Moochie or Schmoochie, huh? Sassy, that's it, that's it, you've been there then. Great, great, well that's my son Jelly that runs that place, so he's just started it. But I'm glad he's gone from that, from what he was doing before, which was selling cars, selling that car that Toyota really runs. It's the #2 luxury car after Mercedes.
Lexus.
Lexus.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm glad.
Well, we're advertising a lot of things today.
Really? I'm not meaning to advertise these things. I'm glad to see him get away though from selling cars to selling ice cream. Let me talk a little bit more seriously. I've had the advantage of spending a lot of my life in Africa, specifically in Mozambique, Angola, South Africa, Namibia, that whole part of the world. And it all started in a way out of my going to a college that many of you may have heard of in the 60s called Antioch College down in Yellow Springs, Ohio. I was at Antioch at what I would probably argue was the peak of its political years. That was when we sent more students to work in Mississippi in the civil rights movement than any other college in this country. And at least 2 of them died. Goodman had been an Antioch student. I wanted to go. My mother would have nothing of it. She was convinced I'd be dead inside of Mississippi within a couple of days if I went to go work in Mississippi. So she said, I'll send you anywhere but there. I decided I'd try to go to Southern Africa and try to go to Rhodesia. What was then called Rhodesia would become known as Zimbabwe. I was accepted to go to school there for a year, and about 2 weeks before leaving to go to Rhodesia to go to school, I got a notice from the school that said they had been visited by the FBI, and the FBI had gotten a notice from Rhodesian security and intelligence people that I was trying to go to school there, and the FBI encouraged Antioch to not let me go to school in Rhodesia. Luckily, and good people at Antioch found a new university that had just started there called the University of Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And I was the first person to go, first overseas student to go to school there in Tanzania. I was the first foreign student and worked with people like the late Walter Rodney. I don't know if some of you may know him. These were incredible people. And in that period of time was when all these liberation movements were organizing and coming together, and that started me out. Going to university there in 65, 66, I then came back, tried to go into graduate programs, got thrown out of one graduate program after another, because the view of the academy here in this country was about producing people who would be integers to keep the system of apartheid and racism and colonial domination all going. What I had been oriented to in Tanzania was getting rid of those things. And so I never got along well, whether it was at Columbia or the University of Chicago or also at Northwestern University. I have been and this has been on my mind very much because of these occupations that have been going on around the Palestinian struggle. And I've been very struck with the fact of how little understanding, I'm in awe of the mobilization that these students have been doing, but I'm totally also sort of blown away with how little they know about all the things that have been done in prior generations that are part of this struggle too. and how much stronger they would be if they were much more conscious of these things that have been done. For example, I went by the occupation here in right there near the student union, the union building, I guess they call it, and near the historical society right here. And I was there and checking out some of the, I don't think they had any idea that the University of Wisconsin produced some of the best academics, activists that were ever in South Africa. They came out of this university, and they came out of political struggles at this university. And I know that these institutions don't perpetuate that. They don't want to have people even know that. But sadly, the young people doing these struggles, we need to find a better way of sharing with them the kind of legacies that they're marching are continuing. They're marching on the shoulders of wonderful people who did wonderful work. And I've been very lucky to have been part of many of those kinds of struggles and known those peoples very well. The same thing is true, incidentally, in Southern Africa. A lot of the students there, the young people there, don't know the legacies that they have or the difficulties and the prices that people paid to get to where they are. So those are some of the things that I could open up talking about.
It's perfect that you brought that up, because the theme today has been about mentorship and intergenerational passing knowledge and passing of the torch. And my perspective is that there's a lot of like purposeful sort of severing of that. I feel that politically that, you know, there are the mean forces really do understand that they benefit from severing our ties intergenerationally and also erasing our memories. So I would love to hear anything that you want to share about perpetuation of empire and how we come together intergenerationally again to learn from each other and actually practice what we want, but you can take it how you want.
Well, one of the things that I think is very striking to me is how much more on the Africa side, they try to share that and try to teach each other and share with each other the history of their struggle. They really want it there, and they really work to get it. They don't have the means that we have here. For example, coming up in the fall will be the Conference of African Studies Associations. It'll be in November down in Chicago. All these big universities have programs of studying places like South Africa, like Namibia, like Ghana, all big programs. And you get admitted into it and you become part of the membership. They have libraries that have enormous resources for people to study, but it's to breed people to go into our mechanisms for continued domination of the region. They aren't mechanisms to help those regions move forward and advance and create their own programs of study and universities. I think the whole country of Namibia's library, for the whole country of Namibia, the library that they have would be less than what might be on one floor of the University of Wisconsin's collection on African studies, let alone the resources in terms of money, and let alone the fact that so much of the political economy of Namibia is still benefiting countries like the United States, companies like the big agricultural companies in this world, like what's the one that produced that horrible sausage?
I don't know, but Monsanto could be the
The one
answer
that
for...
it was it made a little sausage. It was really horrible.
Oh, Oscar Mayer?
No, it's the one in Minnesota.
No.
Huh? Hormel. That's the one. That's the one. And my daughter-in-law works there, so she has shown it to me. So, but it's just amazing to me what Hormel is able to reap out of the products that come out of the Namibian people. And the poverty that is there is just incredible, all over. I mean, this is one of the major issues that right now, you may be seeing and reading of the last days of Mandela's African National Congress. Literally, they may not be re-elected. They may be finished after this upcoming election. And part of the reason for that is the intention and deliberate encouragement of helping organizations like the African National Congress to die. I don't know if you all know, for example. It's just been announced by Biden that he is going to increase, not yield in any way, the amount of support he's giving to Israel. This is in no small measure a punishment of South Africa. Because those of you who have followed this may recall that one of the first countries to come forward in support of the situation of the Palestinian people was South Africa. And the reason for that goes way, way back. It goes way back to things like the solidarity and relationship between Mandela and Arafat, between the African National Congress and the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. It goes back to the fact that when South Africa was fighting against the apartheid system, as the apartheid system developed, it became a nuclear power where two countries helped South Africa to become three countries, a nuclear power. One was the United States, a second one was West Germany, and a third was Israel. Israel helped South Africa, the apartheid system, become a nuclear power. And one of the biggest fears we had throughout that period of the struggle in the 70s and 80s on into finally getting a liberation and election in 94, one of the biggest fears we had was that the South African state, the apartheid state, would just nuke key cities. It was a plan that they had. So many ways, Israel, the United States, on a corporate and governmental level, helped to make the apartheid system able to function and to run African people's lives into the dirt, which is what they're still recovering from. South Africa is poor. Africa is poor. It's poor because of the results of the system of colonial and corporate domination that have benefited countries like the United States, benefited populations like our own population. You know, I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to Africa and I'll be speaking somewhere and I'll give this incredible talk. And afterwards somebody will come up to me and say, Prexty, did you see any elephants over in Africa? Elephants. Did you meet a lion? Did you see real lions? There's no awareness. I can take you through these high schools and elementary schools right now. And of course, meanwhile, you have leadership governments that are urging that any kind of diversity programs be abandoned and gotten rid of. I shudder, literally, to think about the possibility that if Trump and his types are elected, it's going to be the end of any kind of teaching of anti-racism and diversity. It will be also the end of many other things as well. At any rate, I think these are all things that have helped to amplify my life in many ways, as did other things. Let me be very clear that I'm not anti-white people per se. I'm not that. I'm anti-white systems of domination, and I have become that way because of watching and working all over the world. I often speak around Fox Lake, and people want to hear me talk about my experiences living in Switzerland. I lived in Switzerland 4 years. I lived in Sweden another 2 years, working for different organizations there, because in many respects, these areas of the world are doing much more than what we have coming out of the United States. Where only a very privileged few people get the kind of opportunities that I have had. But in Sweden, it's changed somewhat, frankly. But it was the case that it was a much more conscious population. Sweden did much more consciously to embrace the world and its problems. For example, when the coup took place in Chile in '73, Sweden immediately invited on refugees, people fleeing the Pinochet government in Chile, invited them to come and live in Chile, as did, incidentally, countries like Mozambique, countries like Angola that had no resources. They said, come and you can be part of us. I think these are things that we have no idea about, that we don't know about at all. But Europeans who come and visit this country get an understanding right away as to why we don't know things and why systematically information is not given to us. Why systematically you end up with a governor, for instance, advocating out of Florida the ending of any kind of teaching of diversity, any kind of teaching of anti-racism, any kind of teaching of the history of the relationships of the United States to other parts of the world. We're hated all over the world by many countries and many peoples because they're very aware of what, for example, the corporate structures in this country have done to other parts of the world, the way we've pillaged these other parts of the world, the way we've turned entire populations into basically slaving on our behalf. You know, it's not talked about too much about this problem of the peoples who we have gathering now in Mexico. You look at those populations who are gathering, desperately looking for work in this country, they come from all over the world. Many of them, for instance, have come from Africa, across the entire Atlantic, through Central America, getting to the border of Mexico in desperate quest of work, of making an income, of living, and with this dream that gets populated. I want to come back to this Palestine question if I can for a minute, because I'm very worried that, in fact, with the positions Biden is currently taking, of this total embrace of Israel, that one of the things he's also going to do is to alienate the support that he could have from young Palestinian populations, African American populations, Latino populations, and youth. I don't think even many African Americans get enough information to follow the details of what it would mean if we continue to have this complete embrace of what is happening and what Israel is doing, and of the conservative, reactionary forces that are there in Israel. I don't think many people in the African American population get enough information to know about the details, but they will get the sense that it is anti-people of color, that what Biden is doing, and they aren't going to vote. They ain't going to mobilize. And what worried me, if you don't get the black mobilization, there's no way Trump and his ilk will be defeated. No way. Same thing if these youth don't vote. Same way if we don't get the women's vote from that.
Wouldn't it be refreshing if they had a candidate to vote for who was opposed to the war?
Man, wouldn't it be wonderful? Wouldn't it be amazing? And who has a history of not just being opposed to the war, but also a history of being opposed to the U.S. role internationally and historically in creating wars. There's more and more information that's coming out. There's a book by a guy named David Vines who lays out how much the wars that we have seen in our lifetimes are the product of deliberate economic profiteering and making money coming out of the United States. Total War, I think is the title. It's an incredible book. But I know all of you all know that the United States provides more armaments for the world than any other combined countries of the world. Russia, China, combined with Eastern Germany, Eastern European countries, can't provide the amount of arms sales that come out of the United States, that come out of a country in which you have more and more people that talk about conceal and carry all the time. The conceal and carry stuff is related to much deeper stuff. Conceal and carry is related to the fact that as I sit with you here with you all right now, constantly on my mind is wondering whether a policeman is going to shoot one of my sons. Constantly on my mind is the fact that here, even in Madison, where there's supposed to be this liberal police force, any black man walking around has to worry about whether one of these police goes sort of off and just blows them away. Because the orientation has been that of blowing away a black man, of fearing a black man. I just came from Orange County. Many of you all know Orange County in Southern California? Orange County was like Mississippi. It really is. It's rich. As rich as you can be. There are 45 or 50,000 people sleeping on the pavements in Orange County. Homelessness is just extraordinary all throughout California, but growing all over this country. But additionally in California, there is a kind of mentality that I hope is being consciously combated here in Madison amongst the police force, that black people are to be feared. I taught at Chapman University. Tuition at Chapman is I think it's about $85,000, $90,000 a year. All right. So I go into these stores and I walk into the store and, what can I do for you, sir? That's what they'd say. Or they'd say, we're not giving away anything today. I'd say, well, I'm not giving away anything today either. Because the orientation is so racist in Southern California. It's a product of the system in Southern California. And that's what I think we have to become much more conscientiously engaged in fighting against racism in this country. And I don't think we have that yet. Hopefully the younger generation of warriors and fighting people will combat both the racism, sex, all these things are intertwined so deeply that you got to take up more than just one.
We're almost at the end of time, but I'm wondering if you have, if you'd be willing to answer the question, is there something, if you can name something that gives you hope at the moment?
Absolutely. I think one of the first things that gives me hope is these young folk. They give me a lot of hope. I think that these young folk that are occupying these campuses and their intention is entirely good. their preparation lacks. The support for them from people like our generation to support them in their growth and development and their consciousness. I don't think our generation does enough of that. And we should share much more with them about it. And at the same time, also get them to understand and see more systematically how the overflow of people that you have in a state like Wisconsin coming out of your various systems of incarceration. In Fox Lake, where I grew up, right there is a county facility. It's I can't remember the name of it. It's very well known. It's got a lot of folk that have come out of Chicago, a lot of folk out of Milwaukee, a lot of folk out of all these major concentrations of Black and Mexican and poor people. And I think that's what we also have to have happen. And it's got to be part of a continuous process and become part of schools that will teach people to struggle for total change. Total change. And not be scared of becoming completely involved and willing to make change as opposed to making careers.
All right, that was a lovely parting thought. I want to thank you so much. It's fascinating. We could all hear you all day.
Thank you very much.
The Cafe CODA thing.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
You too. Is there, can people just look you up by name and find
Absolutely,
things that you've
absolutely.
written and interviews?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Here it is. All right.
Thank you very much.
And let's hear it for Joey and Andy, Cafe CODA, Joe, and Matt for stepping in so gracefully. And next month we're gonna have an artist roundtable featuring Lisa and Scott Malowski, and we'll have piano music from Maddie. And I'm gonna just play a song.